24 centuries ago, most of the world believed illness was punishment from the gods. But in ancient Greece, a physician named Hippocrates made a radical declaration. He said, "Let food be thy medicine, and medicine be thy food." Then he did something no one else was doing. He started writing down which plants actually worked. His students, Theophrastus and Dioscorides, continued the work, eventually cataloging over 600 medicinal plants in a 5-volume encyclopedia called De Materia Medica. That book remained the standard medical reference for 1500 years. And here is the part that should stop you in your tracks. When modern scientists finally tested those ancient Greek remedies with randomized controlled trials and peer-reviewed research, they found that a remarkable number of them hold up. Not all, but enough to change the way we think about ancient medicine. This is educational content, not personal medical advice, especially if you take medications or have a health condition. Always consult a qualified professional. Today we are covering 20 forgotten Greek remedies that modern medicine rediscovered. Every plant backed by published research, and the final one on this list helped give us the most widely used drug in human history. If you are new here, welcome to the Green Domain, where ancient wisdom meets modern science. Let us begin. Number 1, chamomile, the ground apple. We start with one you probably already have in your kitchen. The Greeks called chamomile chamomilon, which literally translates to ground apple because of its apple-like fragrance when crushed underfoot. It was one of the most widely prescribed medicines in the ancient Greek world. Hippocrates used it for fevers. Dioscorides recommended it for kidney problems, digestive troubles, and anxiety. But chamomile was not just a Greek remedy. It appeared simultaneously in Egyptian and Roman pharmacopoeias, making it one of the most universally trusted plants in the ancient world. So what does modern science say? A 2016 study published in Phytomedicine ran a randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled trial, the highest level of clinical evidence, and found that long-term chamomile use significantly reduced moderate to severe symptoms of generalized anxiety disorder. The active compound is apigenin, a flavonoid that binds to the same brain receptors as benzodiazepine medications like Valium, but without the risk of dependency. The ancient Greeks did not know about GABA receptors or flavonoids, but they knew this plant calmed the mind, and they were absolutely right. To use chamomile medicinally, steep 1 tablespoon of dried chamomile flowers in boiling water for 5 minutes. For anxiety, studies used doses equivalent to about 1,500 milligrams of chamomile extract daily. Number 2, oregano, the joy of the mountain. Most people think of oregano as a pizza topping. The Greeks thought of it as sacred. The name comes from the Greek words oros, meaning mountain, and ganuistai, meaning to delight in, joy of the mountain. In mythology, Aphrodite herself planted oregano in her garden on Mount Olympus. Newlywed couples wore crowns woven from oregano to ensure a happy marriage. But Hippocrates was not interested in weddings. He used oregano as an antiseptic and for stomach and respiratory ailments. Dioscorides prescribed it for digestive complaints and as a warming remedy. A 2014 study in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry confirmed that carvacrol, the primary compound in oregano, has significant antibacterial, antifungal, and anti-inflammatory properties. Researchers found it can inhibit the growth of multiple bacterial strains, including some resistant to conventional antibiotics. One of Greece's oldest kitchen staples turns out to be one of nature's most potent antimicrobials. The simplest medicinal preparation is tea. Use 2 teaspoons of dried Greek oregano, add boiling water, and steep for 10 minutes. You can also find oregano oil capsules standardized to at least 70% carvacrol. Number 3, Mastic, the tears of Chios. Now here is one that most people outside Greece have never heard of, and that is exactly why it belongs on this list. Mastic is a resin harvested exclusively from the island of Chios for over 3,000 years. The Greeks called the droplets tears because of the way they drip from the bark of the mastic tree. Hippocrates recommended mastic for digestive problems, colds, and oral health. Dioscorides described it for wound healing and blood conditions. For centuries, this remedy was nearly forgotten outside of the Mediterranean. Then modern researchers took a closer look. A landmark study published in the New England Journal of Medicine found that mastic gum can kill Helicobacter pylori, the bacteria responsible for stomach ulcers. Additional research has confirmed its anti-inflammatory, antibacterial, and antifungal properties. Scientists are now investigating mastic for its potential to repair damaged nerve tissue. 3,000 years of traditional use, and it took until the 21st century for the medical establishment to catch up. You can chew the raw resin like gum, which Greeks have done for millennia. Mastic supplements are also available in capsule form. Studies have used about 1 gram per day. Number 4, saffron, the blood of Krokos. And this is where Greek medicine starts getting uncomfortably accurate about things we thought we only recently understood. Saffron was sacred in ancient Greece. In mythology, a youth named Krokos was beloved by the god Hermes. When Krokos died, Hermes transformed him into the saffron flower. The Greeks did not just cook with saffron, they prescribed it for depression, digestive issues, and menstrual discomfort. Modern science has now produced over a dozen clinical trials on saffron and depression. A 2019 meta-analysis in the Journal of Integrative Medicine reviewed multiple randomized controlled trials and concluded that saffron supplementation significantly reduced symptoms of depression compared to placebo. The active compounds crocin and safranal modulate serotonin metabolism in the brain, the same pathway targeted by modern SSRI antidepressants. The Greeks prescribed saffron for sadness. Science found it works on the same brain chemistry as modern antidepressants. That is not a coincidence. That is observation so precise it took us 24 centuries to understand why it worked. Saffron is typically taken as a supplement in doses of 30 milligrams per day. You can also brew saffron tea by steeping a few threads in hot water. Number 5, garlic, the strength of soldiers. This one has been hiding in plain sight your entire life. The ancient Greeks had a complex relationship with garlic. The upper classes considered it too pungent, but soldiers, athletes, and laborers consumed it for strength and endurance. Olympic athletes ate garlic before competitions, making it possibly the world's first performance-enhancing substance. Hippocrates recommended it for pulmonary complaints and abdominal growths. Modern research is massive. A Cochrane Review, the gold standard of medical evidence, found that garlic supplementation can reduce blood pressure in people with hypertension by an average of 8 to 10 millimeters of mercury for systolic pressure. Allicin, the compound responsible for that familiar sharp smell, has confirmed antibacterial, antiviral, and antifungal properties. Additional studies show it can help reduce low-density lipoprotein cholesterol, called DL. The food of Greek warriors is now one of the most well-documented heart-protective foods on earth. For maximum medicinal benefit, crush or chop raw garlic and let it sit for 10 minutes before eating or cooking. This allows the enzyme Aloe to convert alein into active allicin. Studies typically use dosages equivalent to 1 to 2 fresh cloves per day. Number 6. Mountain tea, the iron healer. This is the plant that every Greek grandmother swears by. And it turns out she may know something the rest of the world does not. Sideritis, commonly known as mountain tea or tesaitouvonu, grows wild across the mountainsides of Greece. The name comes from the Greek word sideros, meaning iron. Ancient Greek warriors used it to heal wounds caused by iron weapons on the battlefield. Dioscorides documented it extensively. But the modern research is what makes this plant extraordinary. A study published in 2017 in the Journal of Alzheimer's Disease found that sideritis extracts improved cognitive function and reduced brain inflammation in animal models. Researchers at the University of Magdeburg showed that mountain tea may help prevent the buildup of amyloid plaques associated with Alzheimer's disease. Other studies confirmed anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, and antimicrobial properties. A battlefield-wound remedy from ancient Greece may hold clues to treating one of the most devastating diseases of our time. Brewing is simple. Use a handful of dried sideritis stems and flowers in boiling water and simmer for 5 to 10 minutes. Greeks add honey and lemon. Drink it hot for colds or cold as a summer refreshment. Number 7. St. John's Wort, the herb above the icons. This golden flowering plant has one of the most dramatic research stories on our list. The Greeks named it Hypericum, possibly from hyper, meaning above, and icon, meaning icon. In Orthodox tradition, the plant was hung above religious icons on St. John's Day after the summer solstice. Hippocrates and Dioscorides both used it for wounds, burns, and what they called melancholia, our modern depression. Here is where it gets remarkable. A Cochrane Review, the gold standard of medical evidence, analyzed 29 clinical trials involving over 5,000 patients. The conclusion, St. John's Wort is as effective as standard antidepressants for mild to moderate depression, with significantly fewer side effects. The active compounds hypericin and hyperforin inhibit the reuptake of serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine. The Greeks called it melancholia. We call it depression. They had the remedy 24 centuries before we understood the brain chemistry behind it. Important warning: St. John's Wort interacts with many medications, including blood thinners, oral contraceptives, and antidepressants. Always consult a healthcare professional before using it. Number 8. Fennel, the fire bearer's gift. Now we get one of the best mythology stories on the entire list. In Greek myth, Prometheus stole fire from the gods and carried it to humanity hidden inside a hollow fennel stalk. Think about that. Of all the plants in Greece, the myth says Prometheus chose fennel as the vessel for the most important gift ever given to humankind. The battlefield of Marathon, where the outnumbered Greeks defeated the Persian Empire in 490 BC, was named after the fennel growing abundantly there. Marathon literally means a place of fennel. Greek athletes ate fennel seeds believing they improved stamina and sharpened focus, and physicians from Hippocrates onward used it for digestive complaints, bloating, colic in infants, and to stimulate milk production in nursing mothers. A 2012 systematic review in Biomed Research International confirmed that fennel has antispasmodic, carminative, and anti-inflammatory effects on the gastrointestinal tract. Additional research has shown it has mild estrogenic properties, which explains the centuries-old traditional use for women's health. The plant that carried fire to humanity carries real healing power in its seeds. To use fennel, crush 1 teaspoon of seeds and steep in boiling water for 10 minutes. This simple tea has been used across the Mediterranean for thousands of years to relieve bloating and gas after meals. Number 9. Olive leaf, Athena's sacred medicine. Everyone knows about olive oil, but the ancient Greeks knew something most people have forgotten. The leaves are even more medicinally potent than the fruit. In mythology, Athena and Poseidon competed for the right to rule Athens. Poseidon struck the ground with his trident and produced a horse. Athena struck the ground and produced an olive tree. The gods judged Athena's gift more valuable, and she won the city. That is how important the olive was to Greek civilization. Destroying an olive tree was punishable by death. Hippocrates used olive leaf preparations for fevers and infections. Dioscorides recommended crushed leaves applied topically for skin conditions and inflammation. But for most of modern history, the leaves were discarded while the fruit got all the attention. That is beginning to change. A 2009 review in Nutrition Reviews compiled evidence that olive leaf extract contains Aloe, a compound with potent antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, antiviral, and antimicrobial properties. Studies have shown it can help lower blood pressure, reduce blood sugar levels, and support overall cardiovascular health. Additional research suggests that Aloe may even have neuroprotective effects. The sacred tree of Athens turns out to be a pharmacy growing in plain sight, and most of the world has been throwing away the most potent part. Olive leaf extract is widely available as a supplement. Studies have used dosages ranging from 500 to 1,000 milligrams per day. You can also make olive leaf tea by steeping dried leaves in hot water for 10 minutes. Number 10. Aloe, the plant of immortality. We are at the halfway point, and now the list gets more consequential. The next 10 remedies are not just soothing symptoms, some helped inspire the modern drugs sitting in your medicine cabinet right now. The Greeks borrowed aloe from the Egyptians, who called it the plant of immortality. But it was the Greek physician Dioscorides who wrote the most detailed ancient description of its medicinal uses, wound healing, skin conditions, digestive problems, even hair loss. He described precise preparation methods for different ailments, demonstrating a level of pharmaceutical sophistication that would not be matched for centuries. And then there is the Alexander the Great story. According to Aristotle, who was Alexander's personal tutor, the great conqueror was advised to capture the island of Socotra off the coast of Yemen, specifically to secure its aloe supply for treating his soldiers' battle wounds. Think about that. One of the greatest military commanders in history considered a plant so essential that he launched a military campaign to control its source. A 2019 systematic review in the journal Burns analyzed 23 clinical studies. and concluded that aloe vera significantly accelerated wound healing compared to conventional treatments. The primary compound, acemanin, stimulates immune response and macrophage activity. Additional studies have confirmed antibacterial, anti-inflammatory, and moisturizing effects on the skin. Alexander the Great went to war over this plant. Modern medicine confirms he understood its value. For skin conditions and minor burns, fresh aloe gel applied directly from the leaf remains the most effective method. Simply slice a leaf open and scoop out the clear gel. For internal use, aloe juice is available, but use caution. The inner latex layer contains anthraquinones, which are powerful laxatives and should not be consumed regularly. Number 11. Valerian, the all-heal. Hippocrates described its calming properties. Dioscorides recommended it for digestive problems, urinary complaints, and as a sleep aid. Galen, the most influential physician after Hippocrates, later called it foo, possibly because of its powerful, earthy smell. The root was so valued that it was traded across the ancient Mediterranean. Valerian was one of the most important sedative herbs in the entire Greek pharmacopoeia, prescribed for what they called nervous agitation. A 2006 meta-analysis in the American Journal of Medicine reviewed 16 randomized controlled trials and found that valerian improved subjective sleep quality without producing the side effects associated with pharmaceutical sleep aids. The compound valerianic acid interacts with the GABA system in the brain, the same neurotransmitter system targeted by modern sleep medications like Ambien and Lunesta. The Greeks quieted restless minds with this root. Science found it targets the exact same brain pathway as prescription sleeping pills. Number 12. Lavender, the Greek bath herb. Now, what if I told you that one of these ancient remedies performed head-to-head against a pharmaceutical drug in a clinical trial and held its own? The ancient Greeks called it nardus and used it in their baths for insomnia, anxiety, and as a wound antiseptic. Bathing in scented water was not a luxury for the Greeks. It was medicine. They believed that aromatic compounds entered the body through the skin and through breathing, restoring balance to the mind. 24 centuries later, a 2012 study in Phytomedicine proved them right. The study found that an oral lavender preparation called Siloxane was as effective as lorazepam, a commonly prescribed benzodiazepine for treating generalized anxiety disorder, without the sedation or addiction risk. The active compounds linalool and linalyl acetate modulate calcium channels in nerve cells, producing a measurable calming effect. Greeks bathed in lavender to calm their nerves. A modern clinical trial showed it performs comparably to pharmaceutical anxiety medications. Number 13. Thyme, courage in a leaf. This next remedy is one you have almost certainly already used today, without realizing its Greek origins. Greek soldiers bathed in thyme-infused water before battle. Offering thyme was the highest compliment, implying bravery and vigor. Dioscorides prescribed it for intestinal worms and as an expectorant. A study published in the journal Molecules in 2017 confirmed that the active compound thymol has significant antimicrobial activity against bacteria and fungi. Here is the part that might surprise you. Thymol is now an active ingredient in Listerine mouthwash, making it one of the most commercially successful Greek remedies still in daily use worldwide. It was a symbol of courage for ancient warriors, and now it sits in your bathroom cabinet, ancient wisdom hiding in plain sight. Number 14, Licorice Root, the sweet medicine. The Greeks called it glycyrrhiza, literally sweet root, which gave us the modern botanical name Glycyrrhiza glabra. Theophrastus, student of both Plato and Aristotle, described it for asthma and chest complaints. Dioscorides added stomach ulcers and urinary inflammation. A 2018 review in Biomolecules confirmed that the compound chloroquine has antiviral, anti-inflammatory, and liver protective effects with demonstrated activity against influenza and hepatitis. But there is an important caution: excessive licorice consumption can deplete potassium and raise blood pressure. The Greeks used it wisely and in moderation. Modern research says we should follow their example. Number 15, White Willow Bark, the ancestor of aspirin. This is one of the most important plant-to-drug stories in medical history, and it starts right here. Hippocrates, writing in the 5th century BC, told his patients to chew willow bark for fever and pain. Dioscorides documented it for gout, earaches, and inflammation. For over 2,000 years, willow bark remained a standard remedy across Europe. Then, in 1828, a German pharmacist isolated the active compound salicin. In 1899, the Bayer company modified it into acetyl salicylic acid and named it aspirin. But I am saving the full aspirin story for the very end of this video, because there is one more plant involved and the combined story is extraordinary. Hold that thought. Number 16, wormwood, the sacred bitter. This is where Greek medicine connects directly to the Nobel Prize. The Greeks used Artemisia absinthium, named after the goddess Artemis, protector of the wild, for digestive bitters and intestinal parasites. Dioscorides described it as one of the most reliable remedies for expelling worms. Centuries later, wormwood became the key ingredient in absinthe, the green spirit that fueled the bohemian artists of 19th century Paris. Van Gogh, Toulouse-Lautrec, Oscar Wilde, and Ernest Hemingway were all famous absinthe drinkers. The drink was eventually banned in most of Europe due to fears about thujon toxicity, though modern research suggests those fears were exaggerated. But the real medical breakthrough came from a related species, Artemisia annua, called sweet wormwood. In 1972, Chinese scientist Tu Youyu extracted artemisinin from this plant and discovered it was remarkably effective against malaria, a disease that kills hundreds of thousands of people every year. She was awarded the Nobel Prize in Medicine in 2015 for this discovery. While artemisinin comes from the Chinese variety, the fundamental principle that the Artemisia genus contains powerful bioactive compounds was documented by Greek physicians 2,000 years before that Nobel was awarded. One plant genus, Greek medicine, Chinese medicine, and a Nobel Prize, all connected. Number 17, rosemary, the dew of the sea. Greek students wore rosemary garlands during exams, believing it sharpened memory and concentration. Dioscorides recommended rosemary for liver and digestive ailments. A 2012 study in Therapeutic Advances in Psychopharmacology found that simply inhaling rosemary essential oil significantly improved cognitive performance, memory, and alertness in healthy adults. The active compound 1,8-cineole was detected in participants' bloodstreams after inhalation, confirming it crosses the blood-brain barrier. Those Greek students were not being superstitious. They were practicing aromatherapy before the word existed. Number 18. Pomegranate, the fruit of the underworld. In myth, Persephone ate 6 pomegranate seeds and was bound to the underworld. In medicine, Greek physicians used it for tapeworms, diarrhea, and oral infections. A 2017 review in Advanced Biomedical Research summarized studies showing pomegranate contains punicalagins, powerful antioxidants with anti-inflammatory, anti-cancer, and cardioprotective effects. Pomegranate juice has been shown to lower blood pressure and reduce arterial plaque. The fruit that trapped a goddess in the underworld may help keep your heart from ending up there. Number 19. Sage, the salvation herb. The name salvia comes from the Latin salvere, meaning to save or to heal. The Greeks used sage long before the Romans named it. They considered it one of the most important plants in their entire pharmacopoeia. Sage was used to sharpen memory, treat sore throats, improve digestion, and support fertility. Women who wished to conceive drank sage tea, and it was given to new mothers to support milk production. Greek teachers reportedly chewed sage leaves before delivering lectures, believing it enhanced clarity of thought. A 2003 study in Pharmacology, Biochemistry, and Behavior found that sage extract significantly improved memory and attention in healthy young adults. Then in 2014, a clinical trial published in the Journal of Clinical Pharmacy and Therapeutics went further and found that sage improved cognitive function and reduced agitation in patients with mild to moderate Alzheimer's disease. The active compounds rosmarinic acid and carnosic acid inhibit acetylcholinesterase, which is the exact same mechanism of action used by several pharmaceutical Alzheimer's drugs, like donepezil. The herb the Greeks called salvation is now being seriously studied as an ally against one of the most feared diseases of aging. Number 20, the plant that built modern medicine. I told you at the beginning that number 20 changed everything. Here is the full story. You heard about white willow bark at number 15. Hippocrates told his patients to chew it for pain and fever. But the story does not end there. There is a second plant, meadowsweet, Filipendula ulmaria, also known to the Greeks and used extensively across Europe. Both plants contain salicylates, natural pain-relieving compounds. For centuries, doctors used willow bark and meadowsweet interchangeably. Then science got involved. In 1828, salicin was isolated from willow bark. In 1838, salicylic acid was derived from both willow and meadowsweet. But pure salicylic acid was brutal on the stomach. In 1897, a biochemist named Felix Hoffmann was searching for a gentler version to help his father, who suffered from arthritis. Hoffmann acetylated salicylic acid, creating acetylsalicylic acid. In 1899, Bayer registered the name aspirin. The A comes from acetyl, and the SPIR comes from spirea, the old botanical name for meadowsweet. This single drug became the most widely used medication in human history. Billions of doses are consumed every year for pain relief, fever reduction, heart attack prevention, and even in promising cancer research. And it all traces back to a Greek physician telling his patients to chew on the bark of a willow tree. 24 centuries later, the world still takes his prescription every single day. Before we wrap up, here are quick preparation notes for the plants we covered in the second half of this list. Valerian root capsules work best at 300 to 600 milligrams taken 30 minutes before bedtime. Lavender tea uses 1 to 2 teaspoons of dried flowers steeped 5 to 10 minutes. Thyme tea is 2 teaspoons of dried thyme steeped 10 minutes, and inhaling the steam helps with congestion. Licorice root tea is made by simmering dried slices for 10 to 15 minutes, but limit to 1 to 2 cups daily and avoid daily use beyond 6 weeks. White willow bark supplements typically provide 120 to 240 milligrams of salicin per day, but avoid them if you are allergic to aspirin. Rosemary tea is 1 teaspoon of dried rosemary steeped 5 minutes. Sage tea uses 1 teaspoon of dried leaves steeped 5 minutes. No more than 3 to 4 cups daily. Pomegranate juice is most effective at about 8 ounces of pure juice daily. And for garlic, crush or chop a fresh clove and let it sit 10 minutes before eating to activate the allicin. And that completes our journey through 20 forgotten Greek remedies that modern medicine rediscovered. From chamomile in your teacup to the aspirin in your medicine cabinet, the fingerprints of ancient Greek physicians are everywhere in modern healthcare. Hippocrates documented over 300 medicinal plants. Theophrastus recorded 500. Dioscorides cataloged over 600 in De Materia Medica, a text that remained the gold standard for 1500 years. These were not superstitions. These were careful observations made by some of the sharpest minds in human history. And century after century, science keeps confirming what they wrote down. If this changed the way you think about ancient medicine, subscribe to the Green Domain, because next we are putting ancient Egyptian remedies to the test against modern science. Drop a comment and tell me which Greek remedy surprised you the most. Before you go, watch our video on 15 ancient plants that science proved actually heal you. It pairs perfectly with this one: ancient wisdom, modern proof, real results. I will see you in the next one.